Good morning, dear students. Welcome to another session of microwave and antennas. So, in previous sessions, we started our discussion with respect to microwave network theory and passive devices. So, in which we discussed regarding the relationship. So, prior to this, we had a discussion pertaining to uh, what is meant by Z, Y, H, and ABCD parameters, how they are obtained with the short circuit and open circuit conditions, why those cannot be utilized in high frequency, that is the microwave frequency circuits. In order to realize those, yes parameters are utilized. Yes parameters are nothing but the scattering parameters, which gives us the association with respect to the reflected wave amplitude and the incident wave amplitude. So in continuation with those, we looked into few of the properties like S matrix will be a square matrix. The diagonal elements give the information pertaining to the reflection coefficient. The non-diagonal give the information pertaining to transmission coefficient. Then we saw a few of the properties such as the unitary property. Then we saw the reciprocal. If the network is reciprocal, what happens? If the network is lossless, what happens? So if the network is matched, what happens? So these were the things what we had discussed in the previous session, and in continuation with those, we discussed regarding what is the relationship between S and Z parameters, how they are related. Then apart from that, we observed the relation between S and Y parameters. So in association with those, we also discussed regarding the comparison of S, Z, and Y parameters, how they are same or how they are different. So these are the things what we had discussed. So let us continue with the next part, in which we had discussed even regarding the active and passive components. So what is the active component and what is the passive component? So these were the discussions what we had done up to now. So now in continuation, let us move ahead. So wherein we'll be discussing regarding the passive devices. The first passive device, what we can look out is the coaxial connectors or the adapters. So whenever we have any networks, they need to be interconnected with each other. So when interconnection comes into play, we need to use the connectors or the adapters. So if we are dealing with the coaxial cables, so in that case, we would require the coaxial connectors, what we have shown over here. So for example, we can see that there is a N-type connector, which is actually a Navy, Navy type connector. Then we have a BNC point Navy connector, so TNC, then SMA. So these are the different connectors what we can observe over here. So here, each of them has different specifications associated with them. So as again in this, what we have is we have again two types. We can have say three types over here. So we can observe that there are different types of connectors which are present. We have the Navy connector, then we have the Beyonce, that is which is called as Beyond Navy connector. Then we have the TNC, which is termed as the threaded Navy connector. Then SMA, that is sub miniaturized version A type of connector. So these are different specifications what we can observe here, and APC is Amphenol version A connector, miniature connector, what we can observe here. So under this again, we can have different specifications. So that is, we can have it specified as a male connector or a female connector, or sometimes it can consist both, that is male and female. Sometimes it will not be classified as male or female. So these are a few of the classifications what we can observe. So how do I identify that it is a male connector or a female connector? So whenever you observe the connectors, right? If you observe the threadings which are inside, if the threadings are inside, so that is here we can observe. This is a schematic or a cross section. What we can see, the threadings which are shown over here, these are present inside those connectors. That is, there is a casing on top. Within that casing, you have this. For that casing, inside that casing, you will be having the reds. So and you will be using this for connecting. So if this is the case, this will be classified as a male connector. Now, if the threading is on top of that connector, so here you can see that it is on top. So that is this schematic what you are what you are observing over here. So if the threading is on top, right, this will be classified as female connector. So these are just a few things to just specify. Okay, and in some cases you'll not be having the threadings. So in such cases, say for example APC 7. So this is an example in which you cannot classify it as a male or female. So similarly, you have both together in APC 3.5. You can have both type of connections. So these are just a few things to note down. And here we can see what is the dielectric spacing which is being present in order to establish that connection. So for Navy type connector, you have air, then you have APC 7 and APC 3.5 utilizing air as the dielectric material. Whereas for BNC, TNC, and SMA, there is a solid material which will be utilized as a dielectric material for meeting space. So, and these, as it specifies, these are the adapters. So sometimes what happens is when you're connecting, you should have impedance matching happening. So it is for those reasons what you can see that impedances will be at the 50 ohms or 75 ohms. So next we have the attenuators. So the name itself tells what does the attenuator do. The attenuator basically reduces the magnitude or the strength of the signal which is being passed through it. So here we have two types. One is fixed attenuator and one is the variable attenuator. So these two are the variable attenuators. This one is the fixed type. These two are the variable attenuators. So in a fixed attenuator, what happens is, say, we generally specify attenuators in terms of dB. We can specify that the attenuator produces a 10 dB attenuation, or it produces a 2 dB attenuation, or it produces 6 dB attenuation. So it indicates that there will be attenuation of the value what is specified. So in fixed, what happens is this value won't be changing. It will be fixed. If you're passing some signal or the wave from through this waveguide or the material, what happens is this resistive material which is there, it is the lossy material, due to which what happens is the incident wave what you are passing through, it will, some amount of its energy will be absorbed by that resistive material or the lossy material. So if that happens, this is generally seen in your coaxial attenuator. So if you even in your waveguides also you see these kind of attenuators wherein a resistive element will be present, which acts as a lossy material. Say it might be having a aquadag coating on that, which helps us for introducing the attenuation or reducing the strength of the signal what we are passing. So if the lossy material is introduced in such a way that it attenuates no matter what signal you are passing, it attenuates by the same quantity. Say that is 10 dB if I'm specifying, it attenuates the signal by 10 dB. So that is at the output I'll be getting a reduced signal of by say 10 dB. So in that case, this is a fixed attenuator what you can observe. Now in some cases we can see that we have a variable kind of attenuator in which you can observe here there is a resistive element which is specified, there is a resistive film which is specified. So these resistive film and elements basically help to introduce the attenuation. That is, they reduce the strength of the signal which is being passed through them. So in this case, what happens is here you can see that there is a end which is tapered in this form. That is, there is an angle which is provided. So this angle is provided because at high frequency, what happens is we have two, this thing, one is incident wave, what we had seen, and another is the reflected component. So we had seen the incident wave and reflected components. So even at high frequency, these elements also will introduce those factors. So because of that, what happens is the device specification changes. If you're introducing this element in between, then device specifications might change. So in order to reduce such kind of things, what is done is this material, what is there, it tries to minimize those aspects. That is, reflections are tried to minimize. So indirectly, reflection coefficient of those elements is tried to be as near as zero. They are tried to obtain as near as zero for these resistive elements or the resistive films. But what it looks after is it looks after attenuating, say, either the electric field or the magnetic field which is being passed through this waveguides. So in this case, what is happening is you can see that there is a micrometer or a screw gauge. So if you just move this, what happens is this resistive film either moves in upwards direction or comes in the downwards direction. So when this is happening, what is happening, what is actually going on is you are introducing more and more resistive film into the waveguide. So due to which what happens is more and more attenuation is being introduced. So in this case, what happens is you will be having a particular range in which you will be attenuating the signal. Say yeah, there will be either no attenuation at all. So if you remove this resistive film totally out of the equation, then you might see that there might be no attenuation at all. But if you keep on introducing, it keeps on increasing the attenuation. So this is one variable attenuator, and another one is the flap type, what you can observe here. So in this, you can see that this is a waveguide, what is being displayed, this part. So in that waveguide on top, you have a flip which is being introduced. You have a slot over here and there is a flip. So to that flip, the resistive material is connected. So what this does is when you move this flip in either direction, it either increases the attenuation or reduces the attenuation. So here also again, you will be having the resistive element. So this is the attenuator, what we have looked into. Then we have the precision variable attenuator. So as we can see that there are two things to be noted down. One is this section. So this is actually a circular waveguide. So it will be a tube-like structure, which is a waveguide, which will be having some coated element inside so that it helps you to transmit the microwave signals from one end to the other end. And here you can see that there are two sections in which here, if you just observe, if you just observe this part, this is rectangular. Even this side, it is rectangular. But as you move further, what you can see is this turns out to be circular. So this is a kind of transition region wherein you have rectangular to circular, RC1. So there is a tapering which is done and which converts from this rectangular to the circular. Even here we have the same thing, RC2, which is rectangular to circular if I come from this side. So now in this case, what is done is you have a resistive element R2 which is placed, and because of this element, you will be observing the attenuation which is being introduced. Now, what happens is whenever you are transmitting the wave, what happens is it will be having two components. One is E sine theta, and say we have the electric field component and it is being transmitted. And when it reaches at this point, we can observe that there are two components, E sine theta and E cos theta, and depending on the position of this, so in at what angle it is, so this is actually we can rotate it, we can rotate this. So here what happens is depending on what angle it is oriented, it will either reduce one of the component. It might reduce the sine theta component or the cos theta component. So here, based on that, what happens is, since if I consider the overall electric field, it will be the vector quantity of these two parameters. So if one of them is reduced, it is natural that the total electric field also will be reduced, which will be available at the other end. So when it reaches this point, what we can observe is this introduces another sine theta over here, and because of which we see that attenuation is given by this factor, wherein E is the total field which is given as input, and E sine square theta is the output of this. E sine square theta is output of this. So therefore, when you observe attenuation, it will be given by E divided by E into sine square theta, and this when we represent it in terms of the S parameters, it will be 1 divided by magnitude of S to 1. And what about the reflection coefficient? Generally, what happens is if you are introducing these elements, it should introduce only the attenuation. It should not do any other thing. It should not introduce any reflections. So that is what we can observe over here. That is diagonal elements are 0. So it indicates that there are no reflections which are introduced by this precision variable attenuator. So that is a motto. There should not be any reflections which are being introduced over here. So therefore, this S matrix will be represented in this form, wherein the diagonal elements are 0 and the non-diagonal elements are sine square theta. So this is what we have for the attenuators. Now coming down to phase shifters. So in phase shifters, what do we have is, so we can see that The utilization of these phase shifters is to introduce a phase change in the wave that has been transmitted through the coaxial cable or through the coax or the waveguide. So now in this case, again, depending on a few of the factors, you will be able to introduce the phase shifts in these parameters. So now here, what happens is these phase shifters basically provide variable insertion phase. So you can have different phase shifts using these devices, and depending on where it is placed, it will be providing these phase shifts. So next, how do you characterize these phase shifts? You will be having first low insertion loss, and apart from that, low VSWR. So that is when we will be having low VSWR when reflection coefficients are zero. That is as low as possible. So if you just observe the VSWR, it will be one minus R, sorry, one plus R divided by one minus R. If you remember the previous sessions, right? You have it is 1 plus reflection coefficient divided by 1 minus reflection coefficient. So VSWR will be minimum when the reflection coefficient is minimum. So reflection coefficient minimum value is what? It is 0. So it is 1 plus 0 divided by 1 minus 0, which is 1. So if reflection coefficient is 0, it indicates that the device introduces no reflection. It introduces no reflection, and due to the insertion of the element, there should be no losses which are being introduced. Even it holds even for the previous this thing what we have discussed. These phase shifters are basically characterized by these two quantities. Apart from this, we can see that we can have two types of phase shifters. One is called as the dielectric phase shifters, and the other is called as the ferrite phase shifters. So now here dielectric phase shifters are also termed as the reciprocal phase shifters. Then in ferrite, we can have both types. So we'll be looking into these aspects. Here we can see that the dielectric phase shifters in which the dielectric material is utilized for introducing the phase shift in the signal that is being passed through. So for these things, you are utilizing the dielectric substrate material for introducing the phase shifts. And when you're introducing these materials, right, you should take care of the two things what we have, that is insertion of these elements should not introduce any losses, and there should not be any reflections which are happening. So here you can see that the phase velocity of the wave is actually given by this equation. So that is phase velocity Vp or Up, what you have represented. It is given by 1 divided by square root of mu naught into epsilon naught into epsilon r. Now, when you want to change the phase, you can have two parameters. That is, you can have the parameter epsilon r, which is the dielectric constant of the material, that is relative dielectric constant of the material which is being introduced. So when you simplify this equation, that is the overall equation, what we can have is we can observe that beta, which is the phase constant, which is the phase constant. So phase constant will be given by, there will be two parameters of the phase constant because of the introduction of the dielectric material which is present over here. So you have something termed as guide wavelength. So here we have the two parameters, lambda g1, and this is actually lambda g2. So wherein we have two guide wavelengths which are specified by this equation what we are representing over here. So, and if you just observe, all these parameters are dependent on epsilon r. These parameters are dependent on epsilon r. So when this is the case, by introduction of the dielectric constant, we will be able to achieve a path difference. So which basically introduces the phase difference in the wave that has been transmitted. So beta L is the distance which is associated in terms of radians. Beta is phase constant. Beta into the distance parameter gives you the distance in terms of the radians. That is in terms of the angles what we are specifying. So here, if I have the difference between beta 1 and beta 2, what we have seen over here. So beta 1 or beta naught, it's a typo error which is there. So please rectify that. So difference between these two parameters multiplied with the length parameter gives me the path difference or the phase difference in terms of this radians. So this delta phi, what we are seeing is the phase difference which is being introduced into the wave which is being transmitted from one end to the other end. So this is the phase difference what we are observing, and the S parameter for this dielectric phase shifter, we can observe that it is given by this parameter. Again, you can see that the diagonal elements are zero, indicating that there are no reflections by introducing this phase shifters. And what is the phase that has been altered? It is delta phi. How do you show it? You either write it as angle delta phi. In this case, say you are introducing a phase shift of delta phi, or else you represent the same thing as e raised to minus j delta phi. So the other two parameters are the phase shift representations. So in this, you are making use of the dielectric material. Now, what about the next this thing that is precision dielectric rotary material? As you can see that in the previous case also we had seen for the attenuator. So how we had almost a similar kind of structure we can observe here, wherein you have a rectangular section over here, a rectangular section at this end, and you have a transition section which is displayed over here, and here you have a circular waveguide. So this can be rotated. This can be rotated. So one rotation will introduce you around lambda by 2, uh, two rotations will be incorporated. One rotation is equivalent to lambda by 2 implementation. So that is what you can look forward over here. So now here there is a transition wherein from rectangular to circular is getting connected and circular to rectangular is getting connected over here. So which gives the transitions. Now here what happens is depending on this rotation. So this is a dielectric material what you are introducing, and depending on the rotation of this, what happens is there will be a phase shift introduced with the field what you are inputting at one end of this phase shifter. So at the other end there will be a phase shifted version of the signal. Now here we can see different components like E1, then we have E2 and E3, E4. So depending on the rotated version of this, so if the rotation is around theta degrees, so here if theta is being rotated, that is this plate what we are observing, if it is rotated by theta, right? Then if I compare E1 and E2, so what are the parameters we'll be getting, and E4 and E3, what are the parameters we will be getting? So here, what happens is, if I consider that it is around 45 degrees, that is what they have represented over here. So we'll be having E1, there are two components, that is whatever input is there, it with sine theta, and whatever input is there multiplied with cos theta. So these are the two components what we can observe. Now here what we can see is we have one component which is represented as EI cos theta. In this case, if it is 45 degrees, it will be cos 45. And this is the phase shifted version. So due to the first case, that is beta 1 into L. So minus beta 1 into L is the phase shifted version. And similarly, we can see that E2 is given by E1 into sine 45, sine theta, where theta is 45 degrees into, and this one is associated with the second field, that is field E2. So here we obtain the overall shifted version of the E1 and E2. So when we consider the overall representation, right, we can observe that the field E1 and E2 will be represented in this form, where E1 is E naught into e raised to minus j b1 beta 1 into L, and E2 will be E naught into e raised to minus j beta 1 into L minus pi by 2. So this is here we can see it is beta 2 into L. So when we make comparison with these two, I can observe that there is a phase difference of 92 with respect to both. So that is what is being represented over here. So, so if it is beta 2, right, this one is replaced with that parameter over here. So both are represented in terms of beta 1. So now from these components, you can look forward for identifying what is E3 and E4. By the mathematical representation, you can try to see what are the overall results. So that is what is being displayed in this case. So when we consider the final output, you can see that the final output is dependent on the theta angle what you have rotated. So in the final, you will be having AI into e raised to minus j2 theta plus 4 beta 1 into L. So here, depending on what angle you have rotated, that is depending on what rotation is present, so phase shift will be obtained at the output of this field. So you will be having EI into e raised to j 2 times theta. Along with that, this phase shift also will be added. So this is just an example. So this one is case when you have a lambda by 2 dipole, a lambda by 2 plate, and this is the case when you're having a lambda by 4 plate. So these conditions are for lambda by 4. So we can obtain these conditions based on these parameters also. That's why it is represented in this form. This is precision dielectric rotary phase shifter, what we are observing. Now next which comes is the ferrite material. So we can introduce the phase shifts in the signals using the ferrite material. So ferrite material is nothing but the magnetic material. So you might have come across the terms like hysteresis curve and other stuff. So wherein you deal with the resonance field parameters. So if you remember the diagram, right, you have the flux versus the magnetic field. If you remember this, you might have seen eye-like structure which is present. So this kind of this thing you might have observed, which is a hysteresis curve. So in this, you can identify what is the remnant field. So in if I have to introduce, say phase shift, I can make use of the ferrite material. So you can see that we have a waveguide. We have a waveguide which is present over here. Along this waveguide, you have two slot openings which are termed as ferrite toroid. Ferrite toroid, and in between you have the dielectric spacer which is present, and you have establishing the connection, and which will be basically giving you the RF current which is being flown through the waveguide. So now, due to these things, so what happens is you will be introducing a phase shift using the ferrite material. Using a ferrite material, you will be introducing a phase shift. It is because of the resonance field which will be introduced in these kind of devices. Now, in association with this, right, there are classifications in which you have two classifications for this one. One is the reciprocal, in which you have equal phase shifts in both the directions. So such kind of phase shifters will be termed as reciprocal phase shifters. So here you can see that if you give the input at this end and if you obtain the output at this end, say if you're getting EI into e raised to j 2 times theta, for the same device, if you provide the input over here and observe the output, you will be getting the same result at this point. That is EI into e raised to j 2 times theta. So because of which these kind of devices are called as reciprocal devices. So you have a reciprocal phase shifter. Dielectric phase shifter, what we have seen is actually a reciprocal phase shifter. But in ferrite kind, we can have both, in which in both the directions I can have equal phase shifts. If I introduce it from one end and observe at the other end, and if I introduce the same wave at this end and observe the output at this end, I'll be having the same result. So I can have it in that form, or else I can have non-reciprocal kind of structure. So wherein we'll be having in one direction, there might be a phase shift of say phi 1 introduced, and when I introduce the same signal from the other end, I try to observe the output. Here it might not be equal to phi 1, it might be phi 2. So if such kind of phase shifts are happening, that is unequal phase shifts are happening in both the directions, then we call such phase shifter as non-reciprocal. Then apart from this, we have two classifications, that is analog and digital control. So here we can see that this is an example in which we observe the reciprocal phase shifter. So in this case, the structure, what is there, it is displayed over here with the use of the strip line. So here, these strip lines, they are introduced in such a way that the ferrite substrate is introduced in such a way that the magnetic field is perpendicular to this substrate. And because of the presence of these two elements, what happens is whenever you are providing an input to this entire element, at the output, you will be getting a phase shifted version. And it is acting as a reciprocal device, that is reciprocal phase shifters. Now in here you can see that there is a non-reciprocal phase shifters. So this is giving you the top view. So when you observe from top how the device appears, and when you observe it from the side, what you are observing. So these are two views what they have provided for the non-reciprocal phase shifters. Here, what happens is again we have the reciprocal shifters provide equal phase shift in both the directions, whereas non-reciprocal provide unequal phase shifts in the two directions. Now we have analog control and digital control. Now in analog control, what happens is if the say if analog phase shifter is used, the phase is controlled by varying either the magnitude or the direction of the magnetization vector, which is basically applied using the static field. So if you're introducing the phase shift by varying the magnitude or the direction of the magnetization vector. So if you're using that, then we get the analog version of the phase shifter. Now in digital phase shifter, what happens is you are basically using the high eminence ferrite materials. You're using the higher eminence ferrite materials for obtaining the phase shifts. So with the help of the ferrite materials and the substrate. So this is a substrate what we have. Using that substrate and the ferrite material, you try to introduce the phase shift, which provides you a digital control, for the phase shifters what you are utilizing. So this is in association with the ferrite phase shifters. Now, next part, what we can observe is we can observe the waveguide T's. So here you can see some T-like elements. So they are appearing like T. So this is appearing like a T. This is appearing like a T. So if you just observe, these are the waveguide T's what we can observe. So here, what are basically waveguide T's? These are first of all three port networks or three port devices. So we have port 1, port 2, and port 3. So similarly here 1, 2, and 3. So we have three ports for this. So therefore the S matrix will be having 9 elements. That is 3 by 3. 3 into 3 will be 9 elements. And the matrix will be of the size 3 by 3. So for T's, right, in general waveguide T's, the S matrix will be of this form in which you will be having 3 by 3 matrix and will be having total number of 9 elements. Now, they are basically used to connect a branch or a section of the waveguide, either in series or in parallel. Now, how in transmission line, right? When you have a circuit, how do you connect? You take the wires and connect it. But when you go with waveguides, it is not possible to use those wires, this thing to get connection. So series connection or the parallel connection. So for such this thing, what we do is we make use of these waveguide T's. So here you can observe that we can make use of them in the form of either for the parallel connection or the series connection in which we make connection with the main waveguide transmission lines. So basically what we are doing is we are splitting the transmission line. So this is a continuous transmission line. In order to establish the connection, what you're doing is you're splitting this transmission line. Even here also you're doing the same thing. You're splitting the transmission line and trying to establish a connection with another element or a microwave device over here. Now, so here We can see that there are two types. That is one in which you can observe that electric field is present. So this is called as the ER. This is called as the ER, and the another one in which you have the field components. It is because of these orientations, right? In this arm, only E electric field will be available, and in this kind of structure, only the magnetic field will be available. So such kind of elements gives us the T waveguide T's. So in this one, we have the H. We call it as H plane T. Even it is all called as, this one is called as H plane T. So in which the arm will be having the magnetic field, and this one is called as the E plane T, because the side arm what is displayed will be containing the electric field. So this is called as E plane T. So these are a few things to mention. So when we try to obtain the say S matrix for these two elements, right? We can observe that for E plane T, the S matrix or the scattering matrix will be obtained in this form. So which you can obtain these parameters by considering the incident and the reflected parameters, that is A1, A2 and A3. Similarly, we have B1, B2 and B3. Since we have three ports, right, we need to consider all three ports. We need to establish the relation between these, and in the end, we'll be able to obtain this representation for the S matrix. So wherein we have half into 1 square root of 2, that is this overall parameter. And if you just observe, these elements are same as these elements. So that is Sij is equal to Sji. That is for the reciprocal networks what we had seen. So these are actually reciprocal devices. These are reciprocal devices, because of which we are obtaining the same values over here. Okay. So then next for H plane T, this is the S matrix what we can obtain by analyzing this entire waveguide T for H plane. So next what we have is we have another device which is called as hybrid or magic T. So in this case, what happens is it will be containing both together. It will be containing both together. So here, if you just observe, what we have is we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 ports. So Magic T is first of all, or Hybrid T is a 4-port device. It's a 4-port device. Therefore, its S matrix size will be 4 by 4, and 16 S parameters will be defined for this Magic T or the Hybrid T. Now the name itself tells that this is a hybrid. So it is hybrid of what? It is hybrid of this E plane T and H plane T. So it is hybrid of these two. So here, if you just observe, so if this is the waveguide, if I have this arm present, I'll be having the electric field. So that is what you can see. Here we have a waveguide. On this, I am having another arm. So which is actually the E arm or the difference arm. So E arm or the difference arm. So generally the E arm is also called as the difference arm, and H arm is also called as the sum arm. So now here we can see that there is the electric field which will be present in this arm. So there will be only electric field present in this. Now, along with that, if you provide this also, then what happens is you will be getting the H arm. So now in this case, you are having both the arms. But in this case, you are having either the E arm or you are having the H arm. But in these, you are having two side arms, one for E and one for H. So because of this hybrid, right, it is termed as the hybrid T or the magic T. Now here only a difference in this and this is you are changing this orientations 3 and 4. Here this is identified as 3 and this is identified as 4. Now here what we observe is we can see that the S matrix will be given in this form, which is a 4 by 4 matrix. So this is the representation which is associated with the magic T. Now here what happens is if you're considering 3 and 4 for this, so 1 and 2 is not making difference for you. So 1 and 2 is same. If you're considering this orientation, then the S matrix should be given by this parameter. So only there will be a change in the signs what you will be using. So here you can see that this is associated with the arms which are represented. That is, you're changing the references. So it will be 3 and 4 over here. If you change the references, if you make this 4 and this 3, that is 3 and 4, then what happens is you can see that this element which is there, that those get interchanged. So this is the representation which is associated with the magic T. So this is with respect to the different waveguide T's what we can observe. Now, apart from this, what happens is for what all purposes you can look out. What is the application of these devices? Say, especially for the Magic T. So in Magic T, we have something called as EH tuner. We have something called as EH tuner. So for EH tuner, we should have both the arms. So in that applications, we can look forward for using the Magic T. Then apart from that, we have a balanced mixer which is required at microwave frequencies. So there we can make use of these Magic Ts. So this is just a few examples to note down. So apart from this, you have different kinds of elements also, like you can have circulators and other stuffs. So these are again different. Say if you want to have say there is a connection like this, and the signal has to move from this point to this point. So you need to introduce a circulation over there. So you have devices which help us to do that. Those are called as the circulators. So these are just a few examples to note down. Okay. So this is all for this session. Okay, thank you.